This is the home of Julie Hellon Couples. I'm here to talk to her about her chosen charity. Julie, you're very passionate about your charity, but please tell us more about it.
I am very passionate, that's quite right. The charity is a UK registered charity and it works with street children in Kisumu, which is in Kenya. One of the things that staggered me was when I learned that there are more than 70,000 orphan children each year in Kenya.
Really?
Yeah. And those children, unlike our developed world, those children are left completely to fend for themselves. They scavenge on the rubbish tips. It's just a horrendous situation. So Kisumu is home to 1,000 of these children, and the Isaiah Trust works hard to provide some of these children with a new beginning. It does that by providing guidance and counselling, and for the lucky few, they will be rehabilitated in an orphanage home.
That's quite an amazing achievement. But how did you, Julie, become involved in this organisation?
Yeah, that's really strange actually. I've lived here on the Côte d'Azur now more than 16 years. I have two teenagers, 14 and 16, and it was about 2 Christmases ago, and I was going through the Christmas list saying, what do you want for Christmas? And as usual with teenagers here, it was, I'd like another iPhone, or I'd like this, that and the other. And I got actually quite cross, and I thought, our children are so privileged. Now, I'm not blaming them, because obviously it's us that do this for our children. Mm-hmm. It's the society, and whether it's France, whether it's England, it's the same all over. And my husband was listening to this conversation, and he said, you need to meet my friend Nikki. And I said, well, who's Nikki? And he said, well, if you saw some of the children that she takes care of, I think it would be a good thing to do. And at that point, I found out about Nikki, who is one of the founding members of the Isaiah Trust. And indeed, I just thought, at that point, as a mother, it is my duty to actually introduce another lifestyle to my children, and they can see where they are in the world.
Now, having been to Kenya, nothing can really prepare you for what you encounter, because the poverty is so overwhelming. Changes just don't happen that quickly and overnight. But what are you able to do?
Well, you're right. I mean, so often we see poverty on the news, and we are so overwhelmed by it that we actually choose to do nothing about it. I was in a very good situation. My husband knew somebody who was currently involved in an orphanage and a charity. B, I'd suddenly got the message in my head that my children do need to learn a life lesson here. And I was in a situation where I could afford the flight. So with that I went.
But that's a life-changing experience, surely.
It's a life-changing experience, but it was one I was up for. And again, I was able to do. I don't know what propelled me to that time of my life to do, but I just decided to do it. Nothing can prepare you for the poverty. But again, Nikki was quite clear. She said, don't go with any expectations on what you can do. Just go and be their friend.
A lot of money can be raised, but it can go a long way. Even little sums go a long way. So what are you able to buy with the money that you raise? Generally,
I have to say, people are very generous. Friends are very generous. They all say, what do you need? Generally, I like to take money out because things are much cheaper to buy out there. Right next to the rubbish dumps where the kids scavenge, there's an equivalent to a huge colourful supermarket. So generally the first thing I do when I go there is I go in and I buy sanitary pads for the girls, toothpaste, toothbrushes, anything.
These are all the things that we all take for granted.
These are so much the things that we take for granted.
But how do you get people to donate money to charity when they've got another charity in their heads? And not just that, quite a lot of people, even though that they are charitable, may say, well, charity starts at home. How do you cope with a reaction like that?
There are so many worthy charities about. I mean, whether it's animal protection, whether it's an oncology department, whether it's sponsoring the arts. And for me, to actually be able to influence one child's life for the better, that's where your heart is, and that's home for me.
It must be very difficult not to get attached, but is there a danger in that?
There's a huge danger. A lot of people do want to go over and volunteer help. I'm on a huge learning curve, and I'm sure I've made some mistakes going in as a European white woman. I'm guided very carefully by Moses, who runs the orphanage out there, so I would not dream of doing anything without his explicit authorization. If I take, say, a bag of clothes, or if I buy a bag of shopping, I hand it to him. He then hands it out to where the priorities on the ground are. It's not up to me. I was in one of the shoe shops just buying lots of flip-flops for the kids on the dumps. You know, again, €30 probably buys 30 pairs of flip-flops to a child that's no shoes. That's fantastic. And I had John Felix with me, who I will talk about in a minute. Now, he's the little boy that is very close to my heart. He was pleading like any European boy. He'd seen a pair of basket shoes that were probably €10. I would have bought them for him in a heartbeat. But I looked and I just thought, I'm sorry, John, I cannot do that, because if I buy you a pair of basket, I've got to buy another 30 for the other boys as well. It
becomes favouritism, and that's going to be, again, quite confusing. Now, you've invested a lot of time and your own money in this, and the photographs that I've seen, it's evident the happiness and the joy that these children would never have experienced. But coming to it on a personal level, Julie, Kenya can be quite a hot spot. What about your safety, security?
Do you know, it was interesting. This probably sounds a little bit strange, really, but when I was going for my first trip and packing, I kind of looked at my wardrobe, and living on the Côte d'Azur, the weather here, we've all got shorts and everything, but I looked at them and all my shorts were bright colours. They were white, they were pink, turquoise, and I just thought that is so totally inappropriate. You know, so again, when I go to Kisumu, I take all my jewellery off. I just have a plain wedding ring on. I take khaki cut-offs, I take polo shirts. You know, I stand out like a sore thumb. There are not many other white women, particularly, well, none when you go into the slums. So it's really just...
blonde as well.
Yeah, having common sense prevails, dressing appropriately, and I've got Moses who protects me.
And staying with the team.
Absolutely. The team just, you know, look after you all the time. And it's not doing anything without their authorization. And consequently, I feel extremely safe. The only danger I did feel, not so much danger, but the only time I was scared was when Moses did persuade me to go and visit the prison, the local prison.
Goodness.
And that was very scary, I have to say, but totally worthwhile.
I mean, how can people know more about your charity as well?
How can they know more? Well, what we're actually doing at the moment, because it is a UK registered charity, they do have funds set up there for people to give in England, but that was going to be difficult here in France. So what we're in the process of doing is setting up an association here, which will be called Kenyan Kids. And I'm going to have a Facebook page, there's going to be a website. Anybody that donates, we would love them to take part. One of the strong areas I felt in going over there and being their friend, I felt very privileged to be their friend, and they looked at me as a white woman flying all the way from the Côte d'Azur to see them. It really meant a huge difference to them that I took time to do that. What I want to do now is prove to those children that there are a whole load of other people here on the Côte d'Azur that can also be their friend.
You're about to make another journey over to Kenya. Have you a particular mission on this next trip?
Well, I always go with an open heart and see where I'm led. What I will say is that we had a quiz night last week. People again were very generous. We raised €280. Would be enough money to take a child like John Felix and pay for his school uniform, his schooling, his books and his food for a year. That would cost €70. Now that €280, that will help 4 children like that.
I think what you're doing is incredible, Julie. I really do mean that, and we look forward to following you on your journey when you come back.
I would love to.
And whatever happens with the charity. Thank you, Julie. Thank you very much for talking to me today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.